This clip is damning, so I'm just going to let it play as it's been shared by Stephen Edgington, friend of the show.
Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a first generation Home Secretary statement, which I feel this immigration white paper is a move from the 20th century to a much better future immigration system. In particular, I'd like to thank the Home Secretary for removing the annual limits on work visas and also on international students, both of which I lobbied for on behalf of the Wellcome Sanger Institute and Anglia Ruskin University, which serve my constituency. Could he elaborate on how removing the work visa cap in particular will give business certainty?
As a first-generation immigrant, I lobbied to remove the cap on work visas and student visas. Right, so Kemi Badenoch is personally responsible for the mass immigration that we have seen for the last 5 or 6 years. Right. Now, this video came out as part of a Sun newspaper article. This was publicly available, of course, at the time, but people were combing through her career history to see what kind of Tory leader she would be, and this was her maiden speech. This was the first speech that she made in Parliament. A source from the Conservative Party said, either she misled the Commons in 2018, or Kemi is misleading the public now with any claim she would reduce migration numbers. So then, Kemi has responded to this, as she does with any legal criticism, by just saying, the media is out of date, they're attacking me, it's a hit piece, and she says instead, we need a truthful debate in this contest about immigration. Pretending that public statements on a party policy from 3 elections ago are new bombshell revelations is clutching at straws. A truthful debate. We've had the debate. We don't want mass, unprecedented demographic change that is costing the taxpayer £150,000 to £465,000 per head, an increase in crime, and the feeling like the world on our doorstep is changing at a rate that we did not consent to. And do you know when we said that? We said that in 2016 before you even bloody elected with the Brexit referendum. We said that in 2010 when David Cameron said he'd bring immigration down to the tens of thousands and lied. We said that in the last election when many of your voters defected to Reform UK, who at the time were promising to deport all foreign criminals from the UK. And now lots of your members are saying it by saying, I prefer Robert Jenrick over you. The debate is over. And yet you refuse to commit to lowering immigration after having personally lobbied to raise it. Strange that. Wonder why. Okay. It's probably because Kemi, as an immigrant herself, believes immigration is fine so long as they share Western values. Alright. What are those Western values? Well, Kemi's done an article. I'm sorry, I bet this was ghostwritten. Can't prove it, but just the language doesn't sound like Kemi, okay? She says in here, migrants who come to Britain must uphold its traditions, not change them. Alright, I totally agree with that. But what do you mean? What's the bar here, Kemi? Right, let's read this. Why did the Conservatives not lower immigration? After all, we promised to do so at each election, and yet the numbers kept going up. The answer is threefold. I did it. No, she doesn't say that. Sorry. First, we assumed simply instructing civil servants to lower immigration was enough. A naive belief that all officials are thirsting to deliver the government's agenda. In reality, many actively obstructed it. On your command. Second, we left limiting migration solely in the hands of the Home Office. Other departments like the Treasury and Education were actively demanding more immigration as a way to deliver growth. The fact that we have high immigration and low growth has still not defeated this argument. Third, there is a feeling among politicians from all parties that talking about immigration in terms of culture as opposed to economics is controversial. The fear of being labelled xenophobic or culture warriors leads many to say people don't mind immigration as long as it is legal. Those who come here work hard and stay out of trouble. This is a very low bar for deciding who comes into our country. All right, very true. So what's the bar? Kemi says, I speak as someone from an immigrant background. Being born in the UK was like Charlie Bucket finding a golden ticket in his chocolate bar. I really did win the lottery. I love Britain. With the knowledge of how special this country is and how many opportunities it gave me, I also have a hard-nosed view on immigration. The qualities which makes Britain special mean that there will always be more people wanting to come to this country than we can reasonably support. Many of them have no particular interest in the future and success of the UK. It's just a better place to be. So as citizens and taxpayers, we must have rules. We need to demand that those who come here love this country and will maintain and uphold its traditions and not change them. What about changing the demographics of the country? Will that disqualify you from being, I don't know, Conservative Party leader? It is not enough that they work hard and avoid crime. Fair. A proper immigration strategy is to start off with 3 principles. Numbers matter, cultures matter even more, leadership starts from the top. Our points-based immigration system failed on all 3 counts. You cannot police, plan, or provide public services if you don't know how many people are in your country, nation, or due to come. There's a reason that infrastructure seems to be cracking, despite the amount we spend. It's because demand has shot up faster. A migrant can arrive with their possessions and their skills, but can't bring a new home, hospital bed, or a school place. What they can bring is their culture. And this is the key paragraph, right? It's well written, but Culture is more than cuisine or clothes. It's also customs, which may be at odds with British values. Identity, not values, but okay. We cannot be naive and assume immigrants will automatically abandon ancestral, ethno-hostilities at the border, or that all cultures are equally valid. Now, I could have said that sentence. That almost exact word-for-word sentence. It sounds like it's something exactly that I would say, which is why I don't think Kemi wrote it. I think someone else did, who's more clued in to try and call our side of the argument. But then, Kemi sets the bar. Kemi sets the bar for what assimilation means. And again, remember the difference that Harrison Pitt has pointed out before in Deprogrammed between integration and assimilation. Integration means abiding by the laws, paying your taxes, and not causing trouble. Indians have largely integrated. Chinese have integrated. But assimilation means losing your prior identity into the new identity, often by marrying in, renouncing your previous citizenship, and fully deferring to the host culture. Ben Habib being a great example, right? His dad is Pakistani, his mum's English. Ben married an English woman. His son has married an Asian woman. They've all married into the tribe. And Ben Habib would be, frankly, an excellent Prime Minister of this country. I mean, ancestrally English, culturally English, an absolute gentleman, listens to us. Shame he's far from power. But that's not the bar that Kemi Badenoch sets. So I'm just going to reread this, and then you can get the bar that she sets. We cannot be naive and assume immigrants will automatically abandon ancestral ethno-hostilities at the border, or that all cultures are equally valid. They are not. I am struck, for example, by the number of recent immigrants to the UK who hate Israel. That sentiment has no place here. Right. I'm apathetic about Israel. Allow me to revise that a little bit. I've got Jewish friends, ethnic and religious. Eric Kaufman, Paul Morland, been on this show, Hadar Hazoni, all good people, who are obviously interested in the continuity of Israel because they have family members there. They themselves, as Jews, identify with the state representing them. Not necessarily Netanyahu's government, but it's nice to have their homeland under the watch of their people. And so, if its existence is continued in a war they wage independently, not at my expense, without any antagonisms with the British people, fine, I'm happy with that. Also, if they blow up terrorists, fine, those people hate me too. But setting the criteria for being British values, as a love of Israel, you're actively disqualifying people who, like me, have never been to Israel, don't have particularly strong feelings on it either way, who have never left Britain in their lives, whose ancestors have been born in the British Isles, most of mine from England, about half of them from Ireland as well, who are natives, and you're setting the love of another foreign country as the qualifier for being British. No. Nope. Not the benchmark. And she says here, our country is not a dormitory for people to come here and make money. It's our home. Those we choose to welcome, we expect to share our values and contribute to our society. British citizenship is more than having a British passport, but also a commitment to the UK and its people. But nowhere in this article have you outlined what that commitment ensures other than a love of Israel. You don't have a robust answer. Israel actually understands this better. Israel, obviously requires to have Israeli citizenship, but also requires you be Jewish, either ethnically or religiously, so a much harder border of what that tribal membership looks like than the UK. I don't think Kemi Badenoch would necessarily be qualified to run for Prime Minister or President of Israel. Just by moving over there and saying, I love Israeli values, and then trying to redefine Israeli values as a love of the UK. Which, frankly, would make a bit more sense for Israel, considering we helped establish them, right? So, this is not just profoundly patronising, it's weak. It's not socially conservative, because you're not conserving the traditions and heritage of England, as you claim in your headline. You have a very thin conception of what loyalty to Britain looks like. And I think it's insufficient to be the leader of a Conservative Party. But, of course, if we adopted an Israeli model, Kemi would call that racist. Being frank. I don't think Jenrick would, but Kemi would. And then, quote, we will end illegal immigration by proper enforcement and inserting whatever deterrent is necessary into the system. And yes, if necessary, we will leave international frameworks like the ECHR, which were built for another age and are being bent out of shape by legal activism. But recently she said that it's not the silver bullet, so she won't commit to it. So, there you go. But that will be part of our full plan. Not a throwaway promise to win a leadership contest. Reducing immigration is our objective. We lost sight of that in government. No, you lobbied to increase it. Yet, no mention of deportations and no mention of her own record there. Most disturbing of all this, though, is this. On top of an immigration strategy, we will develop a full integration strategy. both for those here and for those yet to come. We must never allow our tolerance to be taken advantage of by those who arrive and only to undermine the very values that have allowed us to succeed. Right. So you participated in the mass diluting of the demographics and culture, the history and homogeneity of this country, and now you're saying your government will step in to nanny every interaction between the imported and the native population to ensure they're all getting along through a robust civics education program. You're completing the Blairite revolution that redefines British identity as a set of values, rather than a culture which is downstream of a people which have not left these islands for thousands of years. That's not conservative. That is the managerial liberal state. You are indistinguishable from Blair. Thank you for watching that clip from Tomlinson Talks. If you liked that and you would like to see more, you can get the full 90-minute show every week on a Wednesday afternoon, live from 3 p.m, only on lotuseaters.com, and all of the other content that my colleagues produce behind the paywall for as little as £5 a month. Thank you very much for supporting us, and I hope to see you there. Until next time, goodbye.